With Mark Brewer, the Democratic Party chair in the state of Michigan, here live. Nice to see you in person.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
You were probably listening a few minutes ago when we talked with Rick Hagland about Rick Snyder's denial to Gary Austin that he ever sent jobs to China. I just want to play a part of that clip for you when we talked to Rick Snyder. It was about a week ago. Here's what he said.
So these allegations of creating jobs in China, hooked to you, they're not true.
That's an accurate statement. Absolutely.
They're not true.
They're not true at all.
Your reaction?
Well, Michael Patrick, that's not true. This guy served on the Gateway Board of Directors for 16 years, 1991 to 2007. During various parts of that time, he was Chief Financial Officer, Chief Executive Officer, et cetera. In 2006, when he was Chief Executive Officer, can't pass the buck, can't say somebody else did it, he signed a document called a 10K, which is a document that's filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. It describes the business operating conditions of the company and various things. And in that document, it says we have outsourced work to China, Mexico, and other countries in Asia. And he signed that document as Chief Executive Officer of Gateway Computers. So it's simply wrong for him to say, it's inaccurate for him to say that outsourcing did not occur while he was there. It occurred while he was CEO just 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And so when he says, Rick Snyder, I'm a successful businessman, those are his credentials to be governor. He must also, therefore, right, look at the rest of the story.
That's right. I mean, if you're going to campaign on your success as a business person, then people have a right to look at, well, let's look at the record then. Mm-hmm. And this is, as Rick Hagland pointed out, a company that basically was so badly managed by Rick Snyder and others that it went out of business essentially. In 3 years ago, the brand name, basically Gateway, was sold to a Chinese company. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to listen to Mark Brewer, believe Mark Brewer. Here's some quotes from the business press. April 2006, Fortune magazine. This is while Snyder is CEO. Can't dodge responsibility. Gateway is a, quote, shadow of its former self. February 2006, another business magazine called Gateway's business moves, quote, a complete disaster and a, quote, total failure. This is while Rick Snyder was CEO. He and the folks who ran this company drove it into the ground. Terrible business plan. Workers got laid off. 19,000 workers lost their jobs. Work got outsourced overseas. And Rick Snyder made a lot of money. He made $14 million cashing in stock options before the company fell apart. So everybody else, the customers, the shareholders, the workers, lost everything. Rick Snyder got rich.
You saw him last night, Rick Snyder?
I did. We were in Kalamazoo with the Gateway Cows doing some True Squad work with Mr. Snyder.
So if you're listening on WKMI right now, our Kalamazoo affiliate, maybe you saw it on television, maybe you heard it on the radio. Explain the cows, if you would.
Well, as people may remember, the Gateway logo was basically the Holstein cow pattern,
yeah.
The black and white pattern. And so we have got folks who dress up as these Holstein cows, and we're doing this True Squad on Mr. Snyder whenever he appears. And we travel around, and they have signs that talk about how Gateway and Snyder moved jobs to China, laid off American workers. I mean, we're going to be out there telling the truth about Rick Snyder's record, and it is not what he is saying it is.
And at the same time, we see a poll this morning by Mitchell, which says that Rick Snyder has a 53% to 26% lead over the Democratic candidate, Verge Bernero.
Doesn't worry me at all. Look, Snyder got a pass on all this in the primary, despite what he says. This was not an issue in the primary. Nobody went after him on this. Nobody talked about his record. He got away with saying, I'm a successful businessman. We're not going to let him get away with that. We're going to be out there over the next 8 weeks now talking about his terrible record as a businessman, while Verge Bernero also talks about his positive record, his vision, what he would do if he were governor. Races turn around. The governor, Granholm, trailed by a dozen or more points back in 06 and to win by 14. Verge Bernero himself trailed by 20 points in the primary, ended up winning by 19. Once we get the facts out there, I'm confident the voters are going to reject Rick Snyder.
So the air war, as they call it, starts this Friday for Verge Bernero on television and radio?
Oh, I'll leave to Verge Bernero to announce if and when he's going to go on TV and radio, and the same for us. I mean, I don't talk about matters of strategy like that.
What did you make of this comment by Mike Bishop here? This is Mirrors News. He says, well, Rick Snyder is a conservative, compared to Governor Granholm, that is.
Well, this is the ongoing feud inside the Republican Party. Bill Schuette was the favorite for the AG nomination of Rick Snyder. That's obviously what happened. Mike Bishop was a critic and attacked Snyder during the primary. So there's no love lost there.
But to what end does Mike Bishop have? He's got a party nominee that, according to that poll, leads by 20 points or whatever it is. What is he trying to prove by, sort of poking the bear in terms of Rick Snyder?
I don't know. You'll have to talk to Mike Bishop about that. I think, though, he symbolizes a lot of people in the Republican Party who are not happy with Rick Snyder. He may be their nominee, but they're very concerned about some of his views from their perspective.
Where were they all on primary day then? How did this happen?
Well, from what I've seen, there were a number of conservative candidates, and they split the vote. We've seen that happen in Republican primaries before. Snyder did outspend all of the other Republicans, I think, combined, based on the final reports. I think he raised and spent over $8 million. So there are a number of factors that enable him to slip through, but we're not going to let him get away with that this fall.
Mark Brewer, the Democratic Party chair. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.